How's it going, everyone? This is Ryan with Stack.gg here for another episode of our interview series. Today, we've got a very special guest joining us. His name is Ismael Isma Pedraza, performance coach of Rogue Gaming, currently the LEC's number one team. He's a former football player and sports psychologist by trade, doing research in Germany. So, without further ado, Isma, thanks for joining us. How's it going?
Hi, Ryan. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about the differences between working with Misfit and Rogue, and how did you find these teams, or did they find you? Is it at a point where every team has a performance coach?
Yeah, I think I started with Misfits in 2017, and it was just, I would say, there were only two or three performance coaches or experts working in towards the psychology of the players. And so it was very new. It was a very new, let's say, approach to performance, esports of legends. So as well, like Misfits at that time, they were trying to find out mm, why do they need me, basically. So how I got basically explain what they want me to do for the players was to improve their mental resilience, right? But this is a very vague approach or very vague goal, right? Like there's so much behind resilience. And so I would say like at that moment was trying to explore a lot how I could benefit players, how I could benefit the organization and the team. So it was a very interesting journey. So my first split it was amazing because we made it to Worlds, and then we also win against SKT in that kind of historic moment in China. So it was very interesting, but we were still trying to figure out how to work with the players. So for me, like in practical terms, I work with the players one on one. I work with the team in building the environment in different directions, health environment, psychological safety, but then at the same time trying to help them to understand how to develop life skills and then at the same time how to perform consistently. So I think the knowledge that I gathered during that time in Misfits was important for me right now where I am, which is trying to implement everything and trying to continue optimizing the strategy for the
Hmm.
players. So at the individual level, but as well at the team level.
Got it. Well, that's an impressive first year. Now Rogue is also number one in the LEC, so maybe something you're doing is working.
Yeah, I mean, I think like as well since last year we had a really good year with Rogue. So even since I would say like 2018, well 2019, sorry, we had a really good year. So I guess we're improving in how we are, let's say, trying to facilitate players and coaches to be better at what they do because they are really talented, right? Like
Hmm.
anyone who is here in the LEC or LCS or any other professional league are very talented. But the difference is how you live day to day, and this is basically our approach here in Rogue.
Hmm. Well, that's a fantastic goal. So, given you've spent a lot of time around both traditional sports and esports, talk to us a little bit about the similarities or differences and the mental aspects of the two.
I think so. Similarities, I would say, they're motivated by competition. They want to win. They want to show the opponent that they're better. So as well, they are willing to put lots of hours into trying to perfect their craft, basically. So there are many different similarities in that direction. So their mindset is just to win, basically, right? And then at the same time, they are enjoying what they're doing. So that's very important for high performance. Um, so I would say like the difference will be as well to or like the difference, starting with the difference, I would say just like path you have in traditional sports with esports, for example. So in esports, a normal path of development, but there is not really talent development where you can help the players to develop life skills or to be exposed to high pressure situations from the beginning of their career. In esports, like pick up the players, young players from their home, right? So they are from their houses and they sort of, okay, some organizations are interested. So it is more about like they're jumping very important gaps in this talent development.
Talk about that a little bit more. What's it like working with some of these players that are so young? Some are maybe 16, 17, 18, not even fully gone through what it's like to grow up yet, and now they're thrust onto the world stage.
Yeah, I think I would say I have worked with many of them. I have worked with 17-year-old Hansama, 17-year-old Fari. Now we have Inspire. So when I started working with them, they were 17 years old, and then you can tell that they are really good. They're really good at what they do, but they're still missing some understanding on how to reach consistency towards very basic skills at the psychological level and at the just behavioral level. For example, sleep. What is important? Why nutrition is important, right? Why exercise is important? And then at the same time, just to reach consistency in terms of how they're prepared for each day of scrims. So I think in many, I would say in many leagues, I think there is still this idea that the scrims don't matter that much, or it doesn't matter if there are a few days that you are not giving your best in scrims. So it is the same if you put in traditional sports, and if you look, look up to these maybe young soccer players or football players who are maybe 19 years old and 17, 18 years old. So they know that each training it's very important because you're given the chance to prove and to show how good you are, right?
Right.
But here you don't have substitutes, and then at the same time it is just one more game, right? So I guess that mentality, that commitment, and that mentality of professionalism is not there yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they just basically jump from solo to a competitive environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very important, and that's part of my job to help them understand the differences without changing in the idea that okay, you are in a professional environment. That means that you are not allowed to enjoy what you do, right? So that's
Right.
completely different. So you need to understand still that they are very young. They are young people. They want to have fun. They want to be kids, right? Um, so it's trying to combine that and trying to balance that idea of having fun and being professional.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting difference in mindset that you bring up because a lot of 17-year-olds may not have even had a job yet, under normal circumstances. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's interesting to think about. So what advice would you give, a young or a rookie player who's about to play on the big stage for the first time? There's probably a 17-year-old out there in the world that's going to Worlds this year, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, we have lots of rookies this year as well in
Yeah,
the LEC.
yeah,
A lot of them, and they're very good. All of them are really good. Experience is one of the aspects that in order to continue developing. But I would say advice. I think not necessarily only for to be prepared, to be ready for a stage game, but more towards the idea that every day is an opportunity for them to learn something new. So I think they need to know and they need to understand that sometimes it's fine to not know everything, always, I would say. So I think one of the issues that many of the rookie players commit is that they are not willing to accept they don't know it all or that they don't know something. So they don't ask questions or they just don't want to show their teammates or coaches that they might not know some fundamentals, right? Or they
right,
might not know what good nutrition, what good sleep is, right? Or what is to communicate effectively. So I think if a rookie player has this characteristic of being confident of themselves and then at the same time being able to ask questions and to be open to other perspectives, I think they are winning already a lot for their development. So I think this is a very, very important thing. So I can summarize it on towards being aware of themselves and then as well being open to accept different perspectives.
got it. Yeah, yeah, that's great advice for any rookies out there who are listening for sure. So, these concepts of diet, nutrition, sleep, in sports psychology too, I think is more and more normalized than traditional sports. So when it comes to esports, do you think that we still need to bridge that gap, or do players typically buy in once you start working with them pretty quickly?
We still need to bridge that gap, and I think this is part of my job as well. I think I would say like nowadays, if I compare it to 2017, players and coaches are more open towards getting more or on trying to understand why these areas are important for performance and how these affect on in-game performance. So so I think something that we still or what is missing still and how we need to bridge the gap is that organizations learn that we need to have experts in different fields and we don't need to have only one expert because we cannot specialize in everything. And my role here is performance coach. I am an expert in psychology, in sports psychology, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about exercise, nutrition, sleep. So I have some knowledge about it. So I think organizations need to understand that if you get, mm, if you help to bridge this gap in terms of bringing some experts slowly and progressively and helping the players to educate themselves and bring the opportunity to players and coaches to understand why this is important and put it on kind of on the top of their list of to things to do. I think we will start just kind of minimizing the idea that esports League of Legends is only about the game, right? It's only about drafting and just like kind of this strategy, but as well will help organizations, fan, everyone involved to understand that there are humans behind the computer, humans behind the keyboard. So we're still a lot of work to do in that direction, but that's why I think like we're doing a very good job.
What role does the social media, how big of an impact does that have on what you teach your players? Because esports has gotten so big that everyone's on Twitter or Reddit, saying crazy things, sometimes not very nice things, and for a young kid, playing in front of the whole world, that can be pretty big of an impact on their performance, I imagine.
I think it depends on the education of the player and understanding and the perspective of the player, how they could get affected by it. But then even at some point, even if the player it's very chill, very self-aware that this is some comments from someone who might not be important to them, to him, so it shouldn't affect. Then at the same time, there is this idea that if you keep reading reinforcing messages about hate or about you know flaming messages or about how bad you play, how bad you are, stuff like that. So you start believing it at some point. So definitely this will end up affecting players. So I have said it before and continue saying it. I think social media is pretty toxic, and I think fans as well could be toxic. I would say they are fans, right? But they are people who just are there to not really help to improve the scene, right? The industry. And it's about knowledge, right? Because as well, like there is lots of kids out there that you could say being toxic is nice, but this is what we need to start changing. I think organizations can or organizations take a big role on this on to change this idea. Uh, but that's why as well you need to have or each team should have a support team where help players and rookie players to understand or how to cope with these things, how to manage it, how to interpret these things. And basically sometimes if a player is very affected by it, so have the rule like, okay, you don't go to Reddit or Twitter after game, right? Especially if you lose.
Hmm.
But even if you are winning, like here in Rogue, we're winning a lot. Then as well, even in summer split, we finished first, right? And we were winning quite a lot. Um, as well, there was this situation that everyone is just hyping you up so much, hyping you up and supporting a lot, that it starts going in the direction of, well, lots of pressure going on. There is lots of expectations. So how do you manage that? So yeah, it goes both directions.
Yeah, yeah. People always got something to say online. That's the one thing that you can be sure of. Yeah. So, in your time in esports so far, who's the most mentally fit player you've worked with or met? Does any one person come to mind?
Whew, I would say this is a tough one because I think everyone is different. But I like to highlight. Um, I would like to highlight three players that I have worked with. So the first one is it's well I start with Alfari. I think the work with him I can say was very hard. It was really hard to work with him at the beginning of Misfits just because he's such a smart person. He's such a smart guy, which at the same time challenged me on the idea of why what I'm doing is useful for him if he is already so good what he does. So of course he challenged me a lot, and then at the end I would say like, we were together for a year and a half, I would say, and continue seeing development on him and understanding and acceptance of all these other areas outside of the game that he highly regarded as good things for him. So and then afterwards we stopped working. I moved on. I moved to Rogue. He moved to I think Origin at the time, and then we met again, and he was saying, "Yeah, I mean it's so important. The game is not the only thing that is important in my life. So there are so many other important things in life." And he was completely the opposite when he started playing. So I saw so much development from his direction, and just because he is a very smart person, and then at the same time very talented, and he understood what he needed to become best. And he was, I would say, the best during so many years here in Europe, and now he's in North America, which he will continue doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other two players, I would say, is Larson and Hans Amma. And I would say just because they are so focused on what they need to, they understand that to be the best, to become the best, you need to have discipline, you need to have very, very good routines, and you need to continue improving this self-awareness to try to become the best. So I would say they are very try hard in terms of trying to develop themselves first, and then that will be transferred to the game. So I think every player had different areas that are really important to highlight, but I can see lots of examples from each of these players that can make me think, wow, this is top level. This is high performing players or athletes if you compare them with traditional sport.
Absolutely, and it's funny you bring up Alfaro. You know, we've been seeing a lot of him in NA. You know, Team Liquid just recently won the lock-in tournament yesterday. So, but the Alfaro we see is, you know, very developed, cool, calm, collected, and you know he looks, you know, very grown up, and it's interesting to see you know actually get the chance to watch him develop over the last several years.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing of this work, and is seeing these kids to develop. Like you said, you can see him like so grown up.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. It's really, really good to see if you compare him with the 2017-16 Fari. So yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice to watch.
Yeah, we're lucky to have him in NA. It's been a lot of fun watching him so far. Yeah. So walk me through you know, a typical week of you on the job during the season. Are you kind of there for everything, for all the scrims, all the games, or are you more behind the scenes working with players as needed?
I'm full time. I'm full timer, so I'm every single day here in the office watching scrims. Um, so basically, we have a specific routine. So we have meetings before scrims. So it depends on the day. So either we have, sometimes we might have one once before scrims, or just very informal practices. So there are different ways of working as a sports site consultant, just the formal way or the informal way. So sometimes you will have some ways to improve or to support your players by having very nice and chill chat about anything or about even performance. Sometimes they are very curious about how to improve the sleep or how to improve their mentality, reflect from the game. So sometimes this is the space where we do these things, unless we have, I don't know, practice. For example, let's say we do, so we are supported by nutritionists, by sports scientists, and fitness trainers. So we had to do, for example, fitness tests. We do it before games or something like that. So we have this space, right? I think like in here in Europe we have screens from 2 to 8 or 7, something like that. So I think it's completely different in North America. So we have only part of the morning for these activities, and then during training, I mean, like even before, like we have specific routines, like we do slow pace breathing, we do some sort of mobility for scrims, and then during the scrims as well, the specific routines that we do to reset and to continue activated, in the sense that one needs to be really. And so I think we are a team that we are, I mean, we understood that it was very important for everyone to try to have effective practice. And that means that everyone has to do their best every single screen block or screen game. And so some do some sort of activations or some sort of activities for them to continue active even though it is a long day basically. And
Yeah.
after screens we have like physical training, we have psychoeducation sessions about anything related to performance, just like some get together type of session for them to continue bonding as a team, trying that and that knowledge from each other outside of the game.
Right. Yeah. It's certainly a lot more than just logging on and playing solo queue for 6 hours a day. These players are working long hours, and it sounds like a pretty packed day.
Exactly. We try as well. We have chef, and then in hand with the nutritionists, we try to bring them as well specific food that it's important for bio to focus, because
Hmm.
even if you eat something that is too heavy as a snack during the scrims, during the break, each of the screen games, so they're going to be affected by it, and the next game is going to be their digestion system is just going to be taking so much part of their resources.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about the diet and nutrition side of things. Is everyone pretty good about it, following a strict diet? It has such a big impact on your energy levels throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a process of year and a half, that's for sure. It's been a long process since I started here. We start implementing slowly, progressively, all these type of activities. Even we do meditation as well, and all these things are, for many of them, is like so, it's so like, what is this? It's not normal for them. So definitely has been a process in this buy-in from the players. So so that is the point. This year and even last year, they were very disciplined. So we have to come up with the strategies to motivate them and to understand why this is important. So that's why we have these sessions where we educate them about, try to help them to understand why it's important, how they can benefit. So we have these interviews or chat with the nutritionists, with the trainers as well. Trainers are trainers in the sense that they try to help them to understand this sort of exercise important for this. And so it is a lot of reinforcing, I would say, or reinforcement for them to buy into it. I would say players like for example Larson, he's very athletic. He comes from a very sports background, so for him it's easier. But for other players who they never played any sport, they were not active at all, so it's gonna be harder. Have to be next to them, push them a little bit, and try to understand them and trying to be with them, take them from the hand basically.
Absolutely. I love that Rogue provides these resources and routine to the players. What percent of LEC teams do you think are doing something similar, or is Rogue the only one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Excel doing a good job as well on that. Very focused on a holistic approach or integral approach to performance, so nutrition, exercise, all these areas. Mm, And I would say that's it. I think the other teams are just start to build it. The problem is like many of the organizations have tried different ways to bring sports psychologists or to bring former professional athletes or professional athletes from different sports to help them to this performance approach for the teams or their organizations, but it hasn't really worked out for many of them. So there is as well like this understanding as well from experts coming from traditional sports to esports. Okay, how do you transfer everything, or how do you transfer part of how do you adapt? So it's a lot of try and error, I would say.
Hmm.
But I think only Excel is the team that I can see they're doing something in this direction.
Yeah, lot of room to grow for sure. But I think a big part of it also is the team itself has to see success for the organization to buy into it as well. I think.
I mean, to be honest, I think sometimes some orgs just try to use this as a platform to sell their organizations in a good way. I mean, and I think that's fair, right? but then the players are the ones who are benefiting from it or not. So I would say like these orgs that have sponsors from, let's say, Red, other organizations that provide high performance, um, I don't know, experiences, so they are doing something about it, but it is not something that is on their daily routine, right? On their
Hmm.
daily schedule. And so I think that's why we are, I think, ahead of many of these orgs trying to bring this edge of performance.
Absolutely. So one of my last questions is we've talked a lot about what esports can take from traditional sports. All these different concepts that we can apply. Is there anything that you think traditional sports can learn from esports?
Oh man, I have been asked this question so many times that I always forget what type of things. I think it's about the cultural aspect. I will say. Um, I think it's hard. It's hard because even though we think that it's very similar, I think it's very similar in the direction of performance and how to how to approach these young players. But I would say something that doesn't happen in traditional sports, just having young players, especially in Europe, having young players from different backgrounds, from different cultures that are completely different. We have players from Poland, France, Sweden, um, so they're completely different. And then I think the process of what we go through here to bring these very young people into an environment where basically they earn a lot of money, they have lots of fans, they have lots of expectations, and they there are many people behind them without the skills to properly adjust to this environment. So maybe I think traditional sports can even support better these young players that they have in professional teams, right? I know that in professional teams they are just starting in traditional sport, they are just starting to implement more sports psychologists or yeah, I would say sports psychologists or this health idea around the mental health of players. And I think this is something that as well we are providing a lot more here, at least in program. But I think this is something as well like these organizations can start learning about how to manage it. And I think the message will be just to mental is a very important topic right now. And then any team in traditional sports in esports is required of be open to open this box basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe a few years from now, you might have football teams looking at you and Rogue as a model for how to implement something like this.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think there is lots of space for traditional sports and esports to couple and try to bring those expertises from different directions. I think in esports we have lots of data, managed data, especially in-game performance. So maybe there are some things in terms of how sports can start implementing different type of in their talent selection, for example, many different areas. Yeah, even at the cognitive level, I'll say I study cognition related to esports, and I think video games is such an important or such an interesting, let's say, space for people to develop their cognitive abilities. I think traditional sports or players, athletes, they might benefit from playing video games.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so to wrap things up, we just have a few rapid fire questions for you. Okay, so as a fan, not a coach, who are your top three LEC players that you like to watch?
Um, I mean, and not my players, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's hard because there are too many rookie players right now. Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I will say Reckless, Mickey, uh, Mickey X, and Vander in Misfits.
Very good choices. Okay. What is your favorite sport to watch outside of league and football?
Cool. You mean football, soccer?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I I don't watch anything else. I don't watch anything else.
I like the dedication. I love it.
Yes, every weekend I was watching football, and then I started working in esports, and I just got to realize that I was watching esports every single weekend. So that was a big shame.
Yeah, I find myself that way now too. Not now that I'm working in the industry.
Yeah.
What league player do you think is secretly the best football player?
I would say Casper. Casper
Really?
inspire.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Who's the greatest football player of all time?
No. Ooh, Ronaldinho.
Okay, okay, good choice. Good choice. How many languages do you speak?
I speak Spanish, uh, German, I would say, English, three languages,
Okay,
a little bit of Finnish.
okay, okay. Who are your top five dinner guests, dead or alive?
Oh man. How many?
Five.
Five. Um, whew, I would say, well, I mean, in terms of sports, I would say it will be interesting Cristiano Ronaldo. I would say Messi. I would say, um, like, I would say martial arts. It would be very interesting to know about Jackie Chan. That would be
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Um, and probably Dalai Lama will be someone who will be interesting just because of the wise and just the understanding about life. And then I'm missing one, right? I don't know.
We can count you as number
I
five.
would just do it like that.
That's a very physically and mentally fit dinner table you've put together there.
Yeah, I think it will be all about how to be better in life. I would say there is lots of in that.
Okay, well, I just have one last question for you, which is, who else would you like to see on our show? But it has to be someone that you can help us get in contact with.
Uh, Someone to be on the show. Um, Player or coach?
And anyone in league.
I would say um, Alfari. I would say it will be interesting to see what he's got to say about performance and this type of questions. You know, about outside the game stuff. It will be interesting to see.
Absolutely. We actually just spoke to him yesterday as a post game interview after the tournament. But we'd love to talk to him in a more extended interview and get to know him outside of the game. So that'd be a great interview to have. Well, thank you so much, Isma. That concludes our interview for today. Just wanted to thank you again for joining us. This is Ryan with Stack.gg. Hope you guys tune in for more.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Isma. Take care.